when I went to my oncologist and I said, I'm going to start working with Rob Jokel, what do you think, or whatever? And he said, I think that's a really good idea. He said he has worked with some of my sickest patients and has done an amazing job.
But, I think that because of what you were doing with her, I think she was able to handle what I did. I see that as being a very complementary existence, that at least in her, the two together are such synergy that you can get a good result when you don't expect, when the statistics say otherwise.
So this part of this conversation regarding the workshops that you're going to be leading, and we're going to talk a little bit about those towards the end, is very important. But I don't want to give short shrift to your work with cancer. Okay. And I would like for you to give us just a little bit, doesn't have to be long and involved, but you went through some very serious health ailments yourself in life, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was almost dead like 4 different times, so a little bit. I had chronic kidney disease, and I ended up getting a kidney transplant for that. I had been on dialysis for 9.5 years. I had complications on different kinds of dialysis where I got peritonitis several times, almost died, a few of those times. And I can remember being in so much pain in the hospital where I looked like I was 11 months pregnant. And I was screaming, even though you're in the hospital and they put you on like strong pain medications and things. I was screaming until I had no voice left, and I was still screaming, but no sound came out, So it was an interesting thing, but it helped me a few ways. First of all, it helped me not to be afraid of pain. So when a person comes to me and they have physical pain, I'm much more relaxed after going through what is extraordinary pain on a number of occasions. It also helped me to really respect what the Western medical profession has to offer. And so the work that I do is in conjunction, if it's a cancer patient, with their oncologist. So that's very important to be able to see what the Western medicine has to offer and what I can offer and how they can come together. And I've met with oncologists, and I've worked a long time on a film, Immune to Cancer, and it's called Immune to Cancer, bringing the full strength of your immune system to the aid of your medical protocol. And so in there, I have 3 different oncologists and some other medical doctors in that film. And it just shows them in such a beautiful light, what caring, and very educated, human beings they are. So that part is very important. So I learned to work together, because very many of the natural healers, it's like there's a divide or something. You have to do it. You have to do natural healing or you do Western, but you don't put them together. And so I really want to see that these can work together in a more profound way for the person's benefit. So I learned that from being sick. And I also learned how powerful our own self-healing mechanisms are, and how we can enhance our own health while we're going through this process. And
and then in the course of your process of going through such a hugely life-changing physical experience of your own illnesses, et cetera, you also started to do some research, and you came in contact with Larry Leshan, who was very well known for healing, correct?
Yeah, he wrote a book, Cancer is a Turning Point, and he was a research psychologist. And he did a lot of good research when he was in the military, because it was very easy, because they just give you all the clients for the research right there, because they're ordered to do that. So that was very nice. But then when he got out of the military, he got a job at a hospital in Manhattan working with people that were considered to have terminal cancer. And there wasn't much hope for them. And he wanted to see, could psychotherapy extend their lives, right? And so he worked with this population in this hospital in Manhattan, and he worked for 2 years. And the psychotherapy that he was trained to do, the psychology, didn't extend anyone's life any longer. They all died according to like when they were expected to die. So if they were given 6 months to live, or a year to live, or 2 years to live, it didn't extend past their expected time, that they were going to pass. And so all his clients died in the first 2 years in short order. And he was thinking about, what am I doing as a psychotherapist? He said, well, what did Sigmund Freud do? He started this off, and he was a neurologist. He said, what does a neurologist do? They look for what's wrong, what's the underlying or hidden cause, and what can we do to make it better? So Larry thought about it. He says, well, that's not working. So what if I do something else? Instead of looking for what's wrong, what if I look for what's right with the person, and what's their own unique way of being, their own unique way of creating, relating, and doing, right? Let's see. And then, do they have a dream? Do they have like some heart's desires, something magical in their life that they always wanted to do or wanted to create? And can we help that person to do that, really go for it in life? And so after those 2 years, he worked another 13 years in that hospital with this new method of looking for what's right and instead of looking for what's wrong. And the results were quite different. So he had 55% of those people. So there was 12 out of 22 people. And he only put them in the research study if they were diagnosed at a major medical institution by biopsy, so that they didn't have any false diagnoses. And so 12 out of 22 people were alive over 10 years when they did that. So he went from 0 results, same population, to 55% of those people alive over 10 years. So that's very, very profound results. And I saw his book years ago when I was teaching health professionals about manual therapy and energy and cranial sacral and things. There was a book on this woman's shelf in this loft that I was renting to teach downtown. And I was like, I read the back cover and it said, over 50% of these people alive 10 years. And I was like, why doesn't everybody know about him? Yeah. So I said, I'm going to find out. And then I looked for him for like 2 years and he was off the grid. And then finally he was teaching a class at the Omega Institute in New York.
Yeah.
And I watched him talk with a person with cancer in front of this group they were all psychotherapists or psychoanalysts and things, this big room of them and me, right? That was there. And I got into this class and he's a supervision class, but he did a demonstration. And as he was talking to this person, the light, like within inside of their belly, deep inside of them and in their pelvis, started to like oscillate and grow and get brighter. And they're just having this conversation like two people falling in love with each other. It's just beautiful. And it kept getting to go like this. And then all of a sudden, it blossomed and the whole person, their entire energy field shifted and realigned with this new center. And I was like, that is way better than anything I do, and I was watching and I knew energy and could see energy and feel energy on all these different levels and could work with that person, but the person was doing it themselves.
Yes.
And
wow.
I was like, whoa, look at the difference between it coming from the person than me trying to help that person to do that with different techniques. I thought I was beyond technique at that point, but I was not. When I saw that, I was like, oh, there's another whole level that I couldn't even imagine working here. And so I was like, Larry and I are going to become friends, and if I can learn it, I'm going to do it, And this woman went out of the class, came back the next day, and she was still glowing. And I'm like, oh my God. So somehow Larry and I became friends, and we met for 18 years in a row at his apartment in Manhattan, by 72nd and West End Avenue, right? We met there like 4 hours, 4.5 hours, sometimes 5 hours. And then as he got older, maybe 3 hours or something like that. But we met for 18 years every Wednesday. So thousands of hours. And we did workshops together and we talked about our work. And I encouraged Larry, because Larry gave up trying to teach his work. He didn't think it was teachable. And but he didn't know energy. I asked Larry, I said, Larry, how did you do that? How do you do it? He says, I just fly by the seat of my pants, Rob. And I was like, that is so helpful, Larry. Now I know how to do it, so that's kind of, so we learned a lot from each other.
Yes. And you've taken it forward. I want to drop one other little thing in here as you're talking about that. The person who turned me on to you was my psychotherapist. And I had reached out to her after I got diagnosed. We hadn't talked to each other for a while. We go back 30 years, but it's like every couple of years we do a mental health tune-up, that kind of thing. And I reached out to her, and her immediate response to me was, you have to go see Rob Jokel. She is a firm believer in the work that you do, enough to turn me on to it. So there's a connection. And the reason I'm bringing that up is this connection of what we feel and what we experience, which is a very basic part of psychotherapy, quite frankly, has a lot to do with what it is you're teaching people to access.
Yes. And I can tell you, I mean, there are oncologists that, that believe in my work and encourage my work, as well. And it's in my film, and I have clients. I had one client, that had late stage lung cancer and it was all through her bones. And she told me that she asked her oncologist, like, what does he think about going to see Rob Jokel? And Dr. Shishua, he's an amazing, thoracic oncologist. And he told her, according to her, he said, I think it's a great idea. He's seen some of my worst cases and helped them tremendously. So there's a lot of results, but I'm not doing it by myself. They're still seeing their oncologist and they're still getting whatever treatment the oncologist suggests to them.
Yes, which is important.
When I went to my oncologist and I said, I'm going to start working with Rob Jokel, what do you think or whatever? And he said, I think that's a really good idea. He said he has worked with some of my sickest patients and has done an amazing job.
But, I think that because of what you were doing with her, I think she was able to handle what I did. I see that as being a very complementary existence, that at least in her, the two together are such synergy that you can get a good result when you don't expect, when the statistics say otherwise.
But the idea is that it's not about cancer. It's about strengthening the healing systems of the body. When you're more joyful and you feel more fulfilled in your life and you're living according to what you were born and built for, you create this coherency inside yourself. You're creating health.
Yes.
When you create health, treatments work much better. Medical treatments work much better. And there's a lot of self-healing where amazing things can happen. And it doesn't you don't need to have a physical problem. You may just want to have a more fulfilling, more rewarding life, which more and more people come to me for now. Used to be, everybody was like on their last stages of dying. And this was like their last hope, to have a chance to live. But it's the same work. You're encouraging a person to be more uniquely themselves. And then once they find that out, you're supporting them to go and do it,
Yes.
So it's not, you can't just sit there and be like, on the mountaintop and yes, that's what you're born and built for.
Yeah.
You want to be like engaged in life. Larry LeShan would say, you got to grab hold of life with both fists kind of thing. So you want to encourage that in a person.
One of the things that I want to touch briefly on is
and I'll tell you one last thing, and it's exciting for me when people take their workshops, and whether they're a health professional and they bring it into their work or they're just like bringing it into their families.
Yes.
And they tell me stories about how their relationship changed with their spouse or their kids, and they're inspiring more and more people in their life just by relating differently, because they're relating differently to themselves. That like just makes me so happy to see that people learn the work at a deep enough level that they're getting turned on because they're seeing how they're helping the people they love the most in their lives.
Yes, absolutely. And absolutely.